Welcome back to the New Indie Releases series. Each month I'll scour through every indie release on Steam to bring you the titles I'm most excited about. Games in these videos will generally be RPGs, bullet hells, Souls-likes, and Metroidvanias. As always, the link for each game will be down in the description. Let's get into it. Momodora Moonlit Farewell is a beautiful, mystery-packed Metroidvania that puts you in the shoes of Momo, a high priestess who's tasked with finding the one responsible for summoning demons to attack her village. This is the fourth and I believe final installment in the Momodora series, but knowledge of the previous titles isn't necessary to fully enjoy this one. This game is loaded with intriguing lore, secrets, voracious demons to slaughter, and really polished, weighty combat, and thoughtfully crafted NPCs to interact with throughout your adventure. Going back to combat for a second, it's simple, but it is satisfying. Whether it's a melee attack with your leaf, and yes, a leaf is your melee weapon, or a ranged attack with your bow, you can really feel and see the impact of each hit. You can also find and eat berries around the world to increase certain stats, and you can craft or find sigils to change your playstyle or just give you a little edge in fights. I'd put level design right up there with Hollow Knight, with a healthy amount of backtracking, loops, and rewards for thorough exploration. The environments are stunning with vibrant colors and ambient particles, music is gorgeous and always evokes some emotion. The lore is honestly so fascinating, and I didn't find myself skipping any discussions that help flesh out the world. Lore might be one of this game's strongest aspects. Finding a Metroidvania whose world isn't contrived and predictable because they just took story beats and mechanics from the greats of the genre and shoved them together without modifying them much can be kind of a challenge. The sense of wonder I got from Momodora almost rivaled that of Hollow Knight, and with the music and just like the general vibe and stuff, Momodora elicited similar feelings to watching Made in Abyss for the first time, which is always welcome. There are two negatives I found. The first is fairly innocuous, and it's the fact that there's some broken English or maybe just some spelling errors here and there, which detracts from this experience. The second larger one took a while to get used to, and that would be this really floaty movement. Game feel would be improved exponentially if we just leapt and fell a little bit faster. Give yourself some time to get used to the movement though, because it will be worth it. I would discuss story and mechanics more, but I'd like to spoil as little as possible, so I'm gonna leave my summary at that. Momodora Moonlit Farewell is only $17, which seems pretty fair now that I've played it. This would make a fine addition to any Metroidvania lover's library. Have you been searching for a game as rage-inducing as Getting Over It, but with a cute pixel chicken wielding a shotgun because your tastes are weirdly specific? Look no further. Shotgun Chicken tasks you with making the arduous journey up to the coop, with a shotgun being your means of propulsion. It is very simple, it is very punishing, and I know this is something challenge and speedrunners can get into. I do wish there was a timer on screen though, that'd be a nice feature. There is a speedrunner skin, and I can only imagine that you need to beat the game fast enough to unlock it, and I will not be getting that one. Getting footage was rough. You know how much I love precision platformers, and that love just grows even more intense when the repercussions for mistakes can be so severe. You shoot at the wrong angle and you are back at the bottom. Good times. This was a very simple pick, and I have no idea of the actual scope of the game for obvious reasons, but it's only $4, very entertaining, and crafted well enough that I have no problem recommending it to those who like this genre. Into the Necrovale is a top-down, fairly hack-and-slashy roguelite full of mystery, baddies, and so much loot. Your time will be spent slaughtering a plethora of unique enemies with a wide range of weaponry and exploring mechanically diverse rooms, all while keeping track of your hope meter, which will slowly drain as you cast, slice, and shoot your way through the dungeons. The hope mechanic is still fairly nebulous to me, but when I died while completely hopeless, I had to sacrifice a random item in a ritual before I could continue, so it's probably best to keep that shit up. You'll have basic clear all the enemies rooms, escort mission rooms, the classic destroy the things so it stops spawning things rooms. You'll have mazes and bridges to make it through and over, while a perpetual onslaught of enemies tries to end you. Some rooms are quite pleasant and you'll get free shit. You'll meet plenty of interesting NPCs, a gardener, an asshole prisoner, a big ass cat who is my favorite NPC. A lot of them really want your hope stones, a valuable currency which are rewarded upon completion of a level and can also be used to open doors and upgrade things around the refuge, and I'm sure they have other uses down in the dungeon as well. While clearly taking inspiration from the top-down dungeon crawler greats like Diablo, and bringing vibes of loss and hopelessness reminiscent to those of the Souls series, Into the Necrovale still certainly has a unique style and identity of its own. I have a few negatives, like the writing is a little predictable, some of the UI is a bit bland and doesn't look finished, and sounds like shooting the bow, for example, can be a bit grating and repetitive. Though this is in early access, so definitely don't attach yourself to these negatives too much. Combat and movement feel really fluid, and that wasn't the impression I got from the trailer, so I was pleasantly surprised. I found Into the Necrovale quite difficult, but I mostly attribute that to not putting enough focus into a build. A solid build becomes more and more important as you progress, and there's clearly an impressive variety of builds to try out. I could never make staves work though. You are stationary when using them, and mobility is very important to me. I actually just used a common rarity bow a majority of the time I played, and it worked out fine until my first boss encounter. If you like dark dungeon crawlers full of mysteries and intense combat, Into the Necrovale may be for you. Give the demo a try if you aren't sure. Enshrouded. This game has so much hype around it, and for good reason. This gorgeous co-op survival RPG brings lush, vibrant landscapes brimming with resources to harvest and lively fauna to admire, or hunt if you're a piece of shit. Gloomy caves dimly lit by bioluminescent fungi harbor malicious baddies to murderize, old ruins to explore, some fairly trivial puzzles, stunning views, sweet lore scattered throughout the realm to flesh out your experience since the story is pretty limited. You are often rewarded for going off the beaten path with secret areas and loot, like you would be in any decent open world RPG, and going where you want to go when you want to seems to be encouraged, though I believe you'll need to upgrade your flame altar in order to go to later game zones due to the shroud. What's the shroud? Great question, sir. While exploring and questing this handcrafted world, and yeah, I wish it was procedural, oh well, you'll have to endure the shroud, a toxic cloud of stuff that will kill you if you spend too much time in it and is crawling with angry fellas who will also try to kill you. I actually don't have a better explanation than that. Sorry, sir. I do know that you can't fast travel while inside it, so definitely don't go looking for secrets and get stuck somewhere while in the shroud so you have to quit out so you don't die. Though death doesn't really bring any hefty consequences. You just drop some crafting items, and you'll probably respawn nearby. I'm at least hoping there's a kind of fee or requirement for fast travel or just a penalty of actual concern for dying at some point. Pretty early on, we're able to craft a grappling hook and hang glider to aid in our traversal of the world, though the grappling hook can only be used at specific sparse locations, so that certainly destroyed most of my excitement for it. Combat is very similar to Valheim, though a bit more complex, and the AI is understandably more competent. I found myself rarely prepared for the battle I was having, and I enjoyed every encounter. The buff system with food is also almost identical to Valheim's as well, as you have food slots, and each food you eat buffs a stat for a time. You'll be able to choose your own playstyle with this very manageable Path of Exile skill tree. I don't get why the Assassin tree is so focused on ranged, and then there's also a ranged tree. To me, an assassin should be able to wield a short blade or a dagger and a ranged weapon, but every skill is ranged. Perhaps there are no smaller blades that fit that class yet. The menus are ridiculously well done. Navigation makes sense, we're given little tutorials when presented with something that warrants explanation. They're satisfying, easy to understand. Being a dev has made me respect a decent menu. It's tough to get them to feel this good. After mining some stone or cutting down a tree with the most awkward looking animation I've seen in a minute, you can construct a base to sleep in, to store resources, to craft. NPCs can even take refuge there, unlocking more weapons, armor, and potion options. This is a solid survival RPG. For sure the best I've played since Valheim, and it does a great job of blending all the mechanics you'd expect to find here with their own shroudy twist. Oftentimes in this genre, just like with recent Metroidvanias, you'll get a game that feels like they took their favorite mechanics and stuffed them into a world where they don't quite fit together or interact in a meaningful way, and it feels rather soulless and doesn't keep my attention. Enshrouded does not do that. Also, the voice I chose in this great character creator sounds like English dub Yamato from One Piece, which is fantastic. Enshrouded is crazy cheap while in early access. At just $30, you're getting a massive world to explore and grow in. I'm excited to see how this game changes and improves over the next year, as that's how long they're estimating it will be in early access. Enshrouded isn't perfect, but King Games have created something that respects those playing it and successfully scratches that survival RPG itch. If you found any of these games interesting, please go give them a look-see and show these devs some love. Don't forget to like and/or subscribe if you want to see more indie game content. Let me know if you have any thoughts or if there are any games coming out in February that you're excited about. My music and socials are in the description, and thanks for watching.